Hi, you're listening to Kate Palmer, and for today's card I'm going to combine the much loved watercolour stamping technique with my Copic pens and my Distress inks. For this I'm going to be using some of the gorgeous stamps from Unity Stamps. This is one of the floral sets. I'm just using two different flowers and likely a text stamp, of course. I've got some of the wonderful papers from Paper Temptress. This one is Eclipse Black, Wild Cherry and Cryogen White. And the Cryogen is the sparkly kind, so it doesn't matter what I do to it, it's going to have this beautiful mica shimmer in the background. For this I'm going to be using some of my Copics, and it's going to be YG25, YG45, Y19, R24, R29 and R59. This technique is really quite simple, but it looks really, really pretty. Now you don't need to hurry with this. And what I'm going to start out by doing is colouring in the stamps with my Copics. Now I'm going to colour directly onto the stamps, and I'm going to use the chisel end of my Copic markers. I'm just starting with my lighter yellow colour here. Now you don't need to colour particularly carefully here, just get some of the colour onto that stamp. So that was the Y19. I'm going to colour the stems in with the YG25. And then I'm applying a little of the R29. Again, you can see I'm not being particularly careful. It really doesn't matter to the final product. So on the second stamp I'm going to colour the stems with the Y45. Next I'm using the R24. And I'm just going to move on to the R59. Now, it's not particularly easy to see, but I have coloured with my Copics over the stamp image here. Now for the next step, I've got a couple of layers of paper, and I've got one of my Copic Zero, which is the blender ink refill, and I've popped it into a mini mister here. I also write Copic ink on here so I know which one's which. I have a little bit of the blender ink in the spray bottle. Now before people ask, no, you cannot use the Ranger blending ink for this. The reason is that Ranger has stated that in their blending ink is a binder that when sprayed can actually affect your eyes in aerosol form. So it's fine when you're just using it with the alcohol inks, but when it's sprayed and becomes a mist, it can actually be dangerous to your eyes. So make sure that you're using the Copic blending ink when you're spraying for this technique. Now place the Cryogen white cardstock flat. What I'm going to do is stamp on top of this. Now those alcohol inks have dried on the stamp, which is why I'm going to use the blending ink. So a couple of spritzes, you don't need it super wet, you just need enough to reactivate that Copic ink. And then with that wet, I'm just going to stamp on here and press down. And then because there's still ink on here, I'm just going to do it one more time. Now that second one will be a much lighter image. In fact, it's only the outline, but I quite like that. Now I'm going to repeat that process with this second stamp. Now this isn't quite enough flowers for me, so I'm going to continue the same process. I'm going to clean off my stamp, Then I'm going to colour it, then I'm going to spritz it, then I'm going to stamp it onto the Cryogen cardstock as many times as I need to until I have enough flowers to kind of fill my frame. The next step is to apply some distress ink. I'm going to start by using antique linen. I'm applying the distress ink with the little foam applicator, and I like to work my way from the outside towards the centre. But in this instance, make sure that you do not put the ink all the way to the centre. You need to leave a little white area in the middle that will sort of highlight the flowers. Go over your Copic marker. This will help soften and blend colours so it's not quite so stark. This is where I'm up to at the moment. You can see that adding that layer of antique linen really helps to highlight the flowers, and the Cryogen cardstock underneath is just so gorgeous. It makes the whole thing look really elegant. Now the next step is to go over the very edges with some of the black soot. Now you need to do this quite carefully because black soot is a really strong colour. So while you're adding the black soot to the corners and around the edge of the cardstock, don't forget to add it to the raw edges of the card. This just helps finish it off, and it makes sure that when someone's looking at it from an angle, you don't get a really white edge. So this is what it looks like after the black soot has been added. You can see it just darkens those edges a little and ends up with sort of a spotlight effect on the flowers, just drawing your attention to the centre of the card there, where the prettiest stuff is. The final bit of inking I'm going to do is on a little bit of the scrap cardstock that I'm using. Again, it's the Cryogen white, just so that I can have a coordinating piece to stamp my sentiment onto. So I'm using black soot, and again the little foam applicator, and just rubbing in little circles, and then I'm stamping with Archival black ink, just so I know it's going to cover perfectly. This is my finished Dreams Make 'em Happen card. You can see it's really simple but really elegant. I quite like the way that this has turned out. Again, this uses one of my favourite cardstocks from Paper Temptress, and that's the Cryogen white. I think it's almost everybody's favourite because we all use it so often. It's beautiful. Now, what makes the Cryogen white special? See that gorgeous glimmer in the background? That's the Cryogen cardstock. And you can see how beautifully it's taken these watercolour effects. So you've got a beautiful variation, but the colours are still nice and bright and dark. Really yummy. See that? Just so beautiful. But then it also takes the darker colour as well. And of course that is just the Distress ink in Black Soot. And this is just a quick look, so you can see how gorgeous this is in person. Thanks so much for watching, and have a wonderful day. Bye.